Our old school education system focused on academic subjects we never actually use, coupled with a prescriptive style of teaching and learning, is woefully outdated. Not only is it boring our children to tears, but it isn't preparing them for 21st century careers. As a result, more parents are choosing to homeschool their children, with the number of kids educated at home rising by 27% in a year. Some parents have even resorted to teaching their kids themselves because they feel their needs aren't being met in mainstream education. There are better and more innovative ways of preparing children for a future as productive adults. We need to allow state schools to be more dynamic and focus on specialisms youngsters could actually become exceptional in. High Tech High in the US and our own Brit School are great examples of what can be achieved when you offer career and skills-related experiences on a project basis, rather than traditional classroom teaching style. More schools like these would be a real game changer and perhaps mean that actual intelligence has a chance against artificial intelligence.
Well, June, as it's now in vogue to quote from each other's introductions, academic subjects we never actually use. Describe, tell me some of those subjects that we never actually...
Well, I would say maybe geography. I didn't use geography.
You don't think it's helpful to have just a basic idea of what's where in the world?
Of course it is, but there's a way that you can do that on a more sort of project basis rather than just looking in notebooks.
Why have you got to do it as a project? Why don't the children just learn the rivers of the world?
Because children will be more engaged that
Yes,
way.
I'd like to refer back, because this is how we now deal with this. Yeah. Boring our children to tears. So school education has to be fun, does it?
Yes, I think it should.
It has to be fun.
It should be.
At all times.
Oh, yeah.
It should never be just a degree of, you're going to learn that French verb. I know you don't want to learn.
I think when you enjoy something, you actually take it in more.
So teachers can only do lessons that are fun?
I'm saying you can do lessons in a fun way.
Depends on the age of the child as well, though, right?
Of course you can.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You wouldn't do this show if it wasn't fun.
I need the money.
Oh, no, you don't. I've seen what you've been offered. No, you don't.
Oh, we'll edit that. So sometimes life is about not doing what's fun. But sometimes you have to get up and do a job.
Hopefully your childhood should be fun.
And
if we can make classrooms much more interesting, I think we'd get a lot more out of our kids, as the examples I've given show. And
just lastly, because you know you and I get on brilliantly.
We love each other.
We talk about home education. My concern, and I understand why parents are doing it, I worry about home education solely in this area, which is I probably learned more about myself playing in a pretty average rugby team when we used to lose more games and being in that kind of environment where you're there for the other 14 blokes. That teaches you a hell of a lot I don't know you get at home. I've spoken enough.
Nick, I agree with you. I agree with you where home education
is concerned. You saw me play. We were bad.
Which is why we need to sort out our state school system.
A concern I have. This 27% increase in homeschooling that's happened.
In the last year alone.
In the last year alone. I suspect some of that, obviously not all of it, is probably due to parents like at the Birmingham schools pulling their children out for religious reasons because they don't want to be taught gay rights equality.
Yes.
And that worries me.
That worries me too.
I know from personal experience that you can get a kid to some of the best universities in this country by homeschooling them because you have the one-on-one attention you need. But what it doesn't develop is A, not only the interpersonal skills that Nick was talking about, but B, the kinds of ideas that help us to integrate in society.
And preparing them to live in a secular society.
You could end up at a top university in this country and still believe in all sorts of medieval nonsense because your parents pulled you out of school because they didn't want you to become, integrated.
When it comes to the homeschooling debate, I think we're on the same side with that one.
So how do you deal with that one, though?
It's a tough one because the problem is you get into all sorts of areas in terms of, people's rights and when you get into sort of religious territory, that in itself becomes quite hard to police, as it were. But I believe that kids should be schooled together, and I think that if we have more options for parents, then perhaps we could go some way to addressing this. And maybe if children are homeschooled, what you add is that they have to spend one day a week at a school. Maybe it's something like that. Rachel?
Well, I mean, I've got mixed feelings about this. I'm concerned about this 27% because I think the off-rolling, I mean, parents taking kids out of school could have different causes. One could be religious difference with the institution, and the other could be unwillingness to pay the fines when the kids don't turn up, and so they to hell with the school, I'll take care of it at home. But then how do you then monitor that the home education is going on track? I've got a not a confession, I'm very proud that I was homeschooled by my own mother.
How long
for? A couple of terms.
Oh, wow. From which age?
I've even got
oh wow!
My mother kept my exercise
I remember those books.
Yeah,
this dates from 1970, so I was just 5.
Wow.
And when I looked at it in preparation, I went to my mother's flat to get this. I did fractions. I did writing.
What was the reason for this?
I wrote my name.
Oh, you
I
had
did
good
sums,
writing
I
at
did
5.
drawing.
Is that your mum's marking of it then?
Yes,
That's your
my
mum
mother.
right.
My mother.
Okay.
I was in a class of 2.
You're
Can you
5
guess who the other person was?
I dread to think who the other person was.
I was in
that
a class.
explains a lot.
Everything.
I was in a class of 2, and I have to say this is one of my happiest childhood memories.
Could you have brought Boris's one?
Exhibit 1.
Wow.
Anyway,
how good your handwriting
my
was
point
for a 5-year-old.
is that, I mean, my mother did this, and I promise you it was one of my happiest, very few happy childhood memories. No, she was a brilliant teacher. It worked really well, but then we went into mainstream education. And
did you
the
ever
rest,
consider
the rest is history.
home educating
The
your
rest is history, get it?
The rest is
Not geography.
Rachel,
the rest.
What? Do you want, I'm prepared to take questions about
if
this.
it's not too personal, why,
Yes.
can I ask the reason why you were homeschooled like that?
Because
Were you
we
travelling?
moved, we were between countries,
Right.
and we missed the start of the school year,
Yeah.
so we didn't get.
So how did your mum know what to teach you? How did it
She
match
just,
the?
well, you
get
was,
given.
you
Right,
don't.
okay. In
You
1970?
do not have to have an educational qualification to teach your children.
You don't.
Would you do it for your children? Would you have?
I have taught my children how to turn on the VCR,
Right.
how to use their mobile phones.
Right. Not a lot of.
No.
I don't-
They
honestly,
taught you how to use
I
a
want to
mobile
pay
phone.
tribute to all the parents who homeschool
I
their own
agree.
children. Let's just hear from one of these amazing parents, a mother of 7, Famida Rahman.
The flexibility, the ability to be able to coach and role model. One of the biggest things that has stood out, and a lot of people have commented, is the level of maturity that the children have, and their ability to be able to communicate with people of different age groups.
They are the crack troops of parenting.
But one
It's
of the
not
problems
easy.
with our education system for me in this country is the obsession with standardised testing.
I agree.
Because what you then get is around this table, all of us will have different abilities and skills and be better at some things than others. But when you apply a set of tests, and this is, if you pass, you're clever. If you fail, you're stupid. It's asking for trouble. And what I think goes on because of standardised testing is you then have schools who are obsessed with things like their Ofsted ratings.
Yeah.
Then they do what they shouldn't be doing in some cases, which is
Expelling the
off-rolling the
kids
naughty or less
Stay up in the
academic.
league tables.
Precisely.
Why are we measuring only in a single way? And what you end up with is children being excluded for various different reasons and alienated. You have workforces that are not really fit for purpose, and you have a lot of children that lack the basic gumption and innovation and creativity to get on in the world.
I completely agree, and there's a quote from Tim Nichols, who is the head of policy and public affairs at the National Autistic Society. It says, this concerning research shows that many parents are homeschooling their children because their schools aren't giving them the support they need. This is really alarming, particularly as schools have a legal duty to make reasonable adjustments for children on the autism spectrum. Homeschooling should be a choice, but for many there's simply no other option. So again, this is why I think we need schools that actually have specialisms, so you know the children there are actually enjoying what they're doing, and we're preparing them for the jobs of the future.
Well, I don't yet have children, and when I do, I hope I'm in a position to take them out of school, ideally for a year, and I would like to take them travelling to experience
Richard
things.
Curtis did that.
I'd love to do that.
How old?
Well, it depends on how many children I'm lucky enough to have, but I would probably say from the age of about 10, probably, 10, 11,
So they're old
12.
enough to realise what you're
Yeah,
showing
because
them.
I want them to have
They're just
good
taking
skills.
They'll just be
11+.
taking their exams for so-called big
I know, but this
schools.
is going to be slightly controversial, but I don't really give monkeys about exam results. That's not how
But
I
you'll give them
gauge.
monkeys about the school your children or child attends.
Well, I would give a monkeys around how my child would be engaged and taught. For me, I want children who are self-sufficient, who have got confidence, who are creative, who will be able to collaborate with people, interact with people. So when you talk about
And who
geography...
are comfortable with different cultures.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
when you
that
talk
gives
about
them too.
geography...
There may
don't
be
have
an
to go
argument,
yachting
Nick. There may
around
on that.
Just
There
need to
may
play
for that.
be an argument to say, like, For example, why do we need arithmetic, mental arithmetic, beyond 2 + 2 is 4, right? The complicated stuff we studied at school, like, you know, all the sine, cos and tan and all that.
Yeah.
Why do we, in the age of the calculator and beyond, why do we need to memorise this stuff?
Well, because it does develop certain elements within the brain.
No, but you can do those calculations.
Have you never been in a pub when the automatic till fails and you buy a couple of drinks and you give the young man or woman and the drinks come to £8.50
Tell me the last time you used sine,
no.
cos and tan for
I'm
that
sorry, we must bring
calculation.
this lesson to an end.
Oh!
I was about to go in there.
I got a homeschool. No, that's it. End of lesson. That's it. No, end of lesson. Class, you're watching The Pledge. Coming up, it's me.